Jon Jones just retired from the UFC after 15 years, and here's something that'll absolutely blow your mind. In those 15 years, he never lost a legit fight inside the octagon. His only loss was a disqualification, and he was dominating that fight. But here's what most people don't know about Jon Bones Jones, and this is going to change everything you think you know about the greatest fighter who ever lived. His story isn't just about fighting. It's about a man who's simultaneously the most gifted athlete in combat sports history and the most self-destructive human being to ever step foot in the octagon. I spent the last month diving deep into Jon Jones' life, analyzing fight footage, police reports, court documents, and verified UFC statistics. What I discovered will fundamentally change how you see the most controversial champion in UFC history. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why Jon Jones' reach is considered a genetic anomaly, how he accidentally discovered his most devastating technique, which crazy incident almost ended his career before it started, and here's the mind-blowing part: why he's statistically the most dominant champion in UFC history. But first, let me tell you something that's going to absolutely destroy your brain. Jon Jones has been arrested more times than he's been legitimately defeated in the octagon, and he's never been legitimately defeated. The story behind his legal troubles is more insane than any fight he's ever had. He stopped a robbery on the day he became UFC champion. This story is absolutely insane and shows you the kind of person Jon Jones was before fame changed everything. On March 19th, 2011, the exact same day he was scheduled to fight Mauricio Shogun Rua for the UFC title, Jones became a real-life superhero. Here's what happened. Jones was heading to a park with his two coaches to meditate before the biggest fight of his life. While walking, they encountered an elderly couple frantically calling for help. The couple explained that a man had just broken into their car and stolen their belongings. Instead of focusing on his upcoming title fight, Jones immediately took action. He chased down the robber, caught him, and held him until the police arrived. Hours later, he stepped into the octagon and destroyed Shogun to become the youngest champion in UFC history. But here's the crazy irony that makes this story even more wild. Years later, it would be Jones running and hiding from the police. The man who once caught criminals became the one being chased by law enforcement. This story perfectly captures the duality of Jon Jones, capable of incredible heroism and devastating self-destruction, sometimes on the same day. It shows that deep down, Jones has always had the instincts of a protector, which makes his later legal troubles even more tragic. The fact that he could stop a robbery and win a UFC title on the same day shows the kind of mental strength and focus that made him unstoppable inside the octagon. He originally wanted to be a pastor like his father. Before Jon Jones became the most feared fighter on the planet, he wanted to save souls instead of destroying bodies. This fact will completely change how you see the man behind the violence. Jones's father is a pastor at Mount Sinai Church of God in Christ in New York, and initially Jon considered following in his father's footsteps. His father supported this idea and encouraged Jon to pursue ministry. Jones was deeply religious throughout his youth and often spoke about his faith in early interviews. His father's influence was so strong that Jon seriously considered dedicating his life to the church instead of combat sports. But here's what's fascinating. Jon ultimately chose a different path, setting his sights on MMA and combat sports instead of the pulpit. However, his faith remained a crucial part of his identity throughout his career. This religious background played a crucial role in helping Jones endure some of the most tragic losses in his life. When his sister Carmen died of brain cancer at just 17 years old, and later when his mother Camilla passed away from diabetes complications, Jones leaned on his faith to get through the pain. Even today, Jones often begins his post-fight interviews by thanking God or Jesus, reflecting the religious upbringing that shaped his character. The irony is incredible. The man who could have been preaching about salvation became famous for delivering punishment in the octagon. This religious foundation also explains some of Jones's internal conflicts. The gap between his spiritual beliefs and his personal struggles with drugs, alcohol, and legal troubles created a psychological tension that may have contributed to his self-destructive behavior. He was the first UFC fighter ever sponsored by Nike. This fact shows just how revolutionary Jon Jones was for the sport of MMA. When Jones entered the scene, many people still viewed MMA as a fringe sport that had only recently shed its reputation as human cockfighting. Jones played a massive role in changing that perception. Through his articulate manner, clean appearance, and incredible fighting skills, Jones made history by becoming the first fighter ever to secure a global sponsorship deal with Nike. This wasn't just big for Jones, it was a landmark achievement for the entire sport of MMA. Nike went all in on Jones, releasing a signature shoe called the Nike Free Trainer 5.0 Jon Jones. Here's how popular Jones was at his peak. The shoes sold out in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Nike also released a signature t-shirt at the same time, which sold out on the very first day of launch. This sponsorship deal was a major milestone that highlighted MMA's evolution from underground fighting to mainstream sport. Jones wasn't just a fighter, he became the face that helped legitimize MMA in the eyes of corporate America. The Nike deal also showed Jones' incredible marketability, despite his controversial personality. Even with his legal troubles, major brands saw his star power and wanted to be associated with the success. Unfortunately, Jones lost this lucrative Nike sponsorship after his legal troubles began mounting. When he tested positive for cocaine before the Daniel Cormier fight, Nike immediately dropped him, costing Jones millions in potential earnings. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting twice a week. Thanks. Fact number 7, his reach is 84.5 inches, longer than most heavyweights. Jon Jones stands 6'4" tall, but his reach is 84.5 inches. That's longer than Francis Ngannou, who's 6'5". It's longer than Stipe Miocic, who's also 6'4". Jones has the reach of a man who should be 6'8" tall. Here's what makes this a genetic anomaly. The average reach to height ratio for humans is approximately 1.0. Your reach should roughly equal your height. Jones's ratio is 1.1, which puts him in an extremely rare category of human proportions. But it's not just the length, it's how he uses it. Jones throws elbows from distances where most fighters throw jabs. His spinning elbows have become his signature technique, and opponents consistently struggle to judge the distance. His reach advantage has been decisive in every single fight. Against Daniel Cormier, who has a 72.5-inch reach, Jones had a 12-inch advantage. That's like fighting with swords while your opponent has knives. The nickname Bones actually comes from his unusual proportions. In high school, Jones played football as a defensive lineman despite being relatively slender for the position. His coach nicknamed him Bones because of his skinny build, and the moniker stuck when he transitioned to MMA. It's still surprising how those skinny legs can absorb the hardest kicks without breaking or taking serious damage. Jones' frame looks fragile, but it's proven to be incredibly durable throughout his career. Fact number 6. He won his first UFC title at age 23, youngest champion ever. March 19th, 2011, UFC 128 in Newark, New Jersey. Jon Jones was 23 years old when he destroyed Mauricio Shogun Rua to become the youngest champion in UFC history. 23. Most fighters are still learning basic techniques at that age. But here's what makes this even more insane. Jones had only been training mixed martial arts for about 4 years. He went from wrestling in college to UFC champion faster than most people complete a bachelor's degree. His performance against Shogun was a masterclass in dominance. According to official fight statistics, Jones landed 123 significant strikes while absorbing only 29. He dropped Shogun multiple times and finished him with ground and pound in the 4th round. The most crazy part, Jones was supposed to be a replacement fighter. Rashad Evans got injured and Jones stepped in on relatively short notice. He went from backup plan to youngest champion in UFC history in one night. After the fight, Shogun, a former Pride champion and UFC legend, said he'd never been dominated like that. The Brazilian had knocked out guys like Ricardo Arona and Quinton Jackson, but was completely overwhelmed by a 23-year-old kid. This record still stands today. No one has won a UFC title younger than Jon Jones did at 23 years and 242 days old. Given how the sport has evolved and how much more competitive it's become, this record may never be broken. Fact number 5. He's been arrested multiple times, including 2025. Jon Jones has been arrested at least 5 times since becoming UFC champion for DUIs, hit-and-run charges, probation violations, and a weapons-related DWI. Those incidents alone have cost him more than $10 million in lost income and legal fees. But here's the crazy part. Even after retiring from the UFC in June 2025, Jones's legal troubles continue. In February 2025, just months before his retirement, Jones was involved in another hit-and-run incident involving a pregnant woman, eerily similar to his 2015 case that derailed his career. According to reports, Jones allegedly fled the scene on foot and appeared intoxicated during a phone call with police. He's scheduled for bond arraignment on July 24th, 2025, showing that even retirement can't save him from his personal demons. If we include include this 2025 incident, that brings his total arrests to 6, showing how chaotic his out-of-cage life has been throughout his entire career. The most serious previous incident occurred in April 2015, the original hit and run involving a pregnant woman in Albuquerque. Jones ran a red light, crashed into the woman's car, then fled the scene on foot. He returned to grab something from his car, then fled again. The woman suffered a broken arm. This pattern of behavior involving pregnant women in car accidents is deeply troubling and shows that Jones's issues go far beyond typical celebrity problems. His legal troubles are so infamous they've become part of the Jon Jones brand. Tragic, wild, and somehow unstoppable. Fact number 4, he accidentally discovered his most devastating technique. Jon Jones' spinning elbow is one of the most feared techniques in MMA. It's become his signature move and has stunned multiple opponents. But here's the crazy part. He learned it completely by accident during training. According to his longtime coach, Mike Winkeljohn, Jones was working on spinning back kicks during a training session around 2009. He kept missing the target and getting frustrated with the technique. Winkeljohn suggested he try throwing an elbow instead of a kick during the spin. The first time Jones attempted it, he caught his sparring partner clean and dropped him, even though the partner was wearing protective gear. Winkeljohn immediately recognized they discovered something special. Jones spent months perfecting the technique, studying the timing and distance required to land it effectively. Jones landed a spinning elbow that stunned Stephan Bonner at UFC 94, one of the first glimpses of his unorthodox brilliance. While it didn't end the fight, it became the signature technique fans now associate with Jon Jones. What makes this even more remarkable is that Jones has landed this technique against high-level opponents who knew it was coming. His ability to set it up and time it perfectly shows his incredible fight IQ. The technique has become so synonymous with Jones that highlight reels of spinning elbows almost always feature his knockouts. It's a perfect example of how natural talent combined with dedicated practice can create something truly special. Fact number 3, his brothers are also elite professional athletes. The Jones family represents one of the most athletically gifted bloodlines in sports history. Jon isn't the only freak athlete in his family. His brothers have also reached the pinnacle of professional athletics. Arthur Jones is a giant at 6'3" and 337 pounds who played defensive end in the NFL for 8 seasons. He played college football at Syracuse before the Baltimore Ravens picked him in the 5th round of the 2010 NFL Draft. He won Super Bowl 48 with the Ravens and later played for the Indianapolis Colts and Washington Redskins. Chandler Jones, the youngest brother, is 34 years old and is an American football defensive end who's currently a free agent. He played college football with the Syracuse Orange and was drafted by the New England Patriots in the 1st round of the 2012 NFL Draft. Since then, he's also played for the Arizona Cardinals and Las Vegas Raiders. Chandler is arguably even more successful than Jon in terms of individual accolades. He's led the NFL in sacks multiple times, been selected to multiple Pro Bowls, and was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He's recorded over 100 career sacks, putting him among the elite pass rushers in NFL history. All 3 Jones brothers were Division I athletes, which is statistically extremely rare. The combination of size, speed, and athleticism that runs in this family is virtually unprecedented in sports. Jon often credits his brothers for pushing him to excel, saying the competitive environment in their household made all of them better athletes. The dinner table conversations probably involved more athletic achievements than most small towns can claim.
Fact number 2, he suffered tragic family losses that shaped his character. Jon Jones might seem like he's always confident and smiling when he's not in the octagon, but he's faced some really devastating personal losses that tested his mental strength and shaped who he became. When Jones was just 13 years old, he lost his older sister Carmen to brain cancer. She was diagnosed and quickly became ill, ultimately passing away at only 17 years of age. Imagine how painful that must have been for a young Jon, losing a sibling during his formative teenage years. But that wasn't the only devastating loss he suffered. In 2017, after a long and painful battle with diabetes, his mother Camilla died at the age of 55. Losing his mother during the peak of his fighting career added another layer of emotional complexity to his life. These tough experiences really tested Jones's mental strength, and by all accounts, they only made him stronger, both as a fighter and as a person. His religious faith, instilled by his pastor father, helped him endure these tragedies. The timing of his mother's death in 2017 coincided with some of his most troubled years, including drug test failures and legal issues. Some observers believe that the grief from losing his mother may have contributed to his self-destructive behavior during this period. These family tragedies help explain the complexity of Jon Jones's character. He's a man who's experienced profound loss and pain, which may contribute to both his incredible mental toughness in the octagon and his struggles outside of it. Fact number 1. He just retired undefeated after revolutionized what was possible at light heavyweight, combining wrestling, striking, and unorthodox techniques in ways no one had seen before. The numbers don't lie. Jones's statistical dominance is staggering. 28 wins, 1 loss, DQ, 1 no contest, 11 light heavyweight title defenses. Youngest champion in UFC history at 23, never officially knocked down in 29 professional fights, defeated 8 former or future UFC champions, over $20 million in career earnings despite missing years due to suspensions. These numbers represent more than just wins and losses. They represent a level of sustained excellence that may never be matched in combat sports. The what-if factor. Perhaps the most tragic aspect of Jon Jones's story is the what-if factor. What if he had stayed out of legal trouble? What if he hadn't tested positive for banned substances? What if he had fulfilled his early promise of being not just a great fighter, but a great role model? Jones missed nearly 4 years of his prime due to suspensions and legal issues. Those were years when he could have added to his legacy, faced more legendary opponents, and potentially unified his claim as the undisputed GOAT. Instead, we're left wondering how much greater his story could have been if he had conquered his personal demons the way he conquered every opponent in the octagon. The retirement timing. Jones's retirement comes at an interesting time. At 37 years old, he was still the heavyweight champion and showed no signs of physical decline. His submission victory over Cyril Gane proved he could still dominate at the highest level. But with another legal case pending and Ham Aspinall waiting for his shot, perhaps Jones recognized that it was time to step away on his own terms. His retirement statement suggested he's looking forward to new opportunities and challenges ahead, and wants to contribute to the sport and inspire others in new ways. The timing also coincides with his latest legal troubles, the February 2025 hit-and-run incident that mirrors his 2015 case. Perhaps Jones finally realized that his personal issues would continue to overshadow his athletic achievements if he remained active. The impact on UFC. Jones's retirement leaves a massive void in the UFC. He was one of the biggest draws in the sport, capable of generating massive pay-per-view numbers, even after long layoffs. His rivalries with Daniel Cormier and potential super fights with Francis Ngannou represented some of the most anticipated matchups in combat sports. Dana White and the UFC promoted Jones despite his controversies because his talent was simply too special to ignore. His retirement forces the promotion to move forward without one of its most marketable and skilled athletes. Ham Aspinall's elevation to undisputed heavyweight champion represents a new era for the division. The British fighter will have the opportunity to create his own legacy without living in Jones's shadow. The broader cultural impact. Jon Jones's story transcends sports. He represents the complex relationship between talent and character, success and self-destruction. His career serves as both inspiration and cautionary tale. For young athletes, Jones shows what's possible with dedication and natural gifts. His rise from college wrestler to youngest UFC champion demonstrates that greatness is achievable with the right combination of talent and work ethic. But his legal troubles and personal struggles also show how quickly success can be undermined by poor decisions. Jones's story is a reminder that talent alone isn't enough. Character and personal responsibility matter just as much. The final verdict. As Jon Jones walks away from the octagon for the final time, his legacy remains beautifully complicated. He's simultaneously the most gifted fighter in MMA history and its most frustrating underachiever. Inside the cage, Jones was poetry in motion, a 6'4" artist who painted masterpieces with violence. His spinning elbows, creative grappling, and fight IQ created moments of brilliance that will be studied for generations. Outside the cage, Jones was his own worst enemy, a man whose personal demons consistently sabotaged his professional success. His arrests, drug tests, and controversies created a shadow that will forever follow his achievements. But perhaps that's what makes Jon Jones's story so compelling. He wasn't a perfect hero or a complete villain. He was human, with all the complexity that entails. His retirement doesn't resolve the contradictions in his character, it simply ends the active chapter of his story. From stopping robberies to spinning elbows, from wanting to be a pastor to becoming the most feared fighter on earth, Jon Jones's story is unlike anything we've ever seen in sports. These 10 facts only scratch the surface of the most complex and talented athlete in combat sports history. His retirement marks the end of an era in MMA. Whether you loved him or hated him, you couldn't ignore him. Jon Jones forced you to have an opinion, and that's the mark of a truly transcendent athlete. Jon Jones has left the building, but his impact on combat sports will be felt forever. The question now is, will we ever see another fighter who combines his level of talent with his level of controversy? Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the fighters who make this sport incredible, and I'll see you in the next one, where we explore the legends who defined mixed martial arts. The Octagon will never be the same without Jon Bones Jones, and neither will we.